actually adapting your screenplay to a novel. Now, I can't tell you how to write a novel here. I can't talk about all the details about how writing novels, how it's different. I'm going to give you some basic principles. You can do a whole seminar on writing novels, right? As we know, you can do that with scripts, and you can do it with novels as well. But I just want to talk about things to consider when you're adapting your script to a novel. First of all, audience and genre do matter. Just like Hollywood, there are genres in books with audience expectations, and novels may have some unique elements, so you got to learn them. In other words, if you're going to write some horror novel or you're going to write some romantic novel, you got to get to know what those genre conventions are. And again, as screenwriters, you should be very already cued in on this. It shouldn't be a problem for you. But get to know those genre, and there are different things in books than there are in movies. Whoops. One of my personal weaknesses is fantasy readers. My books I call them biblical fantasy because they're based on Bible, but there's some fantasy elements to it. And a lot of fantasy readers often love intimate details about the world. Now, I do have some details about the world, but look, I'm not Game of Thrones and I'm not Lord of the Rings, right? I'm a screenwriter, so I prefer brevity, and I want shorter stories, more exciting, and I like to finish it quickly. I don't want to be laboring over 1,000 pages. The good thing is, there's a market for that. There's all markets for all kinds of novels, and I consider that to be a strength. We screenwriters bring to the mix a brevity that is a strong market nowadays. Not everybody wants to read a long, laboring novel. They like fast-paced novels too. So my point is your weakness can become a strength, but realistically, heavy fantasy writers, I've had some heavy fantasy writers, say, well, it's just not very deep. But interestingly, because of my screenwriting background, I focus more on personal moral choices and decisions that people make as revealing of their character, rather than heavily relying upon inner monologues and stuff like that, telling everything. So in some ways, show don't tell is still very, very particularly related. However, in my series, I do, because I love ancient mythology and I've studied all this ancient history stuff behind the Bible, I do actually have a very detailed mythology and rules of the world that people have really, really clicked with. So that I brought along with it. Yeah. Another element of one of my strengths in knowing the genre and audience is the Christian audience, religious people, they tend to like to have things more explained to them, which is why a lot of times their Christian movies are preachy and all that kind of stuff. But if you know that, you can appeal to that and do a good version of it. But they like to have things explained to them. And they don't like it when you mess with the Bible. So even though I'm adding to the Bible, I'm staying true to the original intent. I'm not like going way off, like, turning it into a parable for environmentalism like Aronofsky did, or, like Ridley Scott did with Exodus, where he turns God into a temper tantrum child. I'm staying true to the spirit, even though I'm adding stuff to it. And the other thing was they like things explained to them. So one of the things I did, even though I added imaginative fantasy elements, for those religious readers who would be scared of that, are you tampering with the Bible? I put an appendix at the end of each book where I revealed a lot of the historical and biblical research that it was based on. I didn't make a lot of it up. I got it from the Bible. There's a lot of creative there's a sea dragon of chaos in the Bible, right? I got it from there. I didn't make it up. But by explaining all that, a lot of those religious readers were more accepting of the imagination. Oh, that's where you got it from. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. But before you poo-poo that, I've done it now with every book of the series, and many readers have said, I like the appendixes as much as I love the novel. And secondly, Michael Crichton did that. That's one of the reasons why I loved Michael Crichton, was at the end of his novel, he would have an appendix of the real science that his fiction was based on. So it's not just a religious audience thing. There are a lot of people who like that. So genre and audience matters. But also, use your script as a detailed outline for your novel. put in all the stuff you cut out for the script, right? We all know all the stuff you have to cut out for the script because it's got to be honed down. Now you can put all that back in. But the cool thing is that screenwriting is economical, and I think that economical language forces us to be better writers because we have to say more in less words. But now you have permission to explore. And again, you're talking to a person who's not a novelist. I've never wanted to be a novelist or anything like that. I wanted to be a writer and a screenwriter. But when I first did this, I was a little fearful because I'm like, I don't know if I can do it because I don't think like that. I was amazed, you guys. Once you start letting your imagination go, and once you start realizing, okay, I've got the time, I've got the pages, I can let it all out because I'm not going to run out of pages. Once you do that, you'll be amazed at how you can get into it. I got into it and I didn't think I could. However, boringness is still inexcusable. In other words, don't just fill it up with words. It's the same rules. It's still the same rules apply. And boring is the ultimate sin for a good storyteller. But you've got that instinct in you as a screenwriter already. So what you add, you're going to continue to add, but keeping that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is word count, which I put, whatever. Now I think it is important to consider word count, but there is a sense in which you can do a 200-page novel or a 1,000-page novel. Really, all of them are out there. But you do have to figure out the average for your genre, at least know what your genre average is, because like I said, if people are used to reading 500-page fantasy novels and yours come out, like mine, come out at 250, that's going to affect some people. So be aware of it. You don't have to be a slave to it, but you have to be aware. But the other exciting thing is, though, in self-publishing, you don't have to just do novels. You could do novellas and short stories now. You can sell short stories on Amazon. So why not sell them for 99 cents, especially if you've written a short story? That's what's exciting. And if you find you adapt your screenplay and you find, wow, it really is only 100 pages. I couldn't get it anymore. Make it a novella. Call it a novella. No problem. Now, I think in terms of page count, because the cost of paperbacks, this is something to consider. When you're doing print-on-demand paperbacks, the more pages, the more expensive you have to pay for that novel, so the less money you make on the novel. So I always keep track of the page count. If I can make it a little bit less and still get away with it, you can always adjust the type size and the type leading to make fewer. In fact, I've done that with my last novels. My last novels were getting bigger, but I've been making the type a little bit smaller so there won't be as many more pages because I want to make more money per book. So, and we're talking about for the print on demand. Digital books are different. But however, too few of pages might look too cheap. Too many pages might be too long to some people, but too few pages might look too cheap or undeveloped. They might be questioning you, so be aware of that. For my genre, 300 to 500 pages works. 90,000 to 120,000 words are fine. Young adult, less pages than adult. Again, there's an exception to every rule, Harry Potter, right? But still, the point is if you're writing a young adult novel, it doesn't have to be super long. No absolute rules. Just be within the average and you're safe. That's what I follow. Hollywood screenwriting benefits novels. Screenwriting is a different kind of writing than novels, but I think and by the way, I have been criticized by not criticized, but sort of like, well, I guess you can call it criticized. I've been criticized by a publisher she did write back and said, you write more like a screenwriter, where it's just sort of fast and quick and, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's, like I said, that's my weakness, and maybe I'll get better as a writer as well. But in spite of that, I still think that we bring value to novel writing that a lot of novel writers don't have. For example, we value entertainment, not merely self-expression. We know that we have to be entertaining. Every page has to be fascinating, right? We know that. That's inbred in us. Bring that to the novel. A lot of novelists just go, it's all about self-expression for them, and they go on and on and on, and they don't realize how boring they could be. So boredom is the ultimate sin. Every scene counts. We're used to writing page turners. That should be true of novels as well. But also, I think story structure. I believe that Hollywood storytelling Hollywood storytelling structure is the best in the world, in my opinion. And I think a lot of novelists, again, they feel like they can be all creative and go here and there, and they don't have a strong sense of story. Some of them don't. And we bring that to novel writing, which I think is an advantage. Oh, I'm sorry. Along with that is the protagonist. We have a strong sense of a hero driving the story. Again, how many novels have you read where they just sort of like, you don't know who the hero is or whatever? I think our understanding of a strong protagonist with a strong drive really can benefit a novel. Novels often become muddied and lose their focus. And what I was going to say was, even if you're writing something like Game of Thrones, having a strong protagonist understanding will help each of the writing of your characters. And also, again, economy of words. Yes, novels need more words, they need to be more detailed, and yes, you know, screenwriters may need to learn a little bit more about that. But there's no excuse for the blathering on and incessantly about irrelevant details, or, you know, look, I'm sorry, but 100 pages about whales in Moby Dick, I'm sorry, I skipped all that stuff, you know. And like I said, the exciting thing is, okay, even a lot of great novelists or novel readers who love long novels, but there's a big wide world. There's lots of people who love short novels too, so it's okay. There's plenty of room. My approach was this. I said, okay, I know my weakness as a screenwriter, but how can it be my strength? Well, my strength is I'm going to write like when you're reading a book, it's like you're watching a movie, because that's what I like. So I still write the book as if you're watching a movie, and so I think that becomes a fast read, fast-paced. People love the pacing. It's just like page turner, so that's all good.